12 years. And Newt had a big job on his hand, but he really had to attack the conservatives. He did it boldly. And quite frankly, I think the reason he didn't not run for speaker, 2 years later, he didn't have the votes. That was what the problem was. So this idea that he voluntarily reneged and he was going to punish himself because we didn't do well in the election, that's just not the way it was.
Let me come at it this way. If Newt Gingrich emerges from the GOP primary process as the nominee of the party, do you go your own way?
Well, I've done a lot of that in my lifetime.
I should be more specific. Will you run as a third-party candidate?
I have no plans to do that, no intention. And when I've been pressed on it, they asked me why, and I said I don't want to. But I haven't been an absolutist. When I left Congress, I didn't have many plans on going back, but I did after 12 years. I went back to medicine. So, no, I don't have any plans to do that, no.
Would you support a Newt Gingrich as nominee of the GOP?
Well, he keeps hinting about attacking the Fed, and he talks about gold. Now, if I could just change him on foreign policy, we might be able to talk business.
Speaker Gingrich, you willing to adjust to pick up an endorsement from Texas?
Well, I got one on Friday from Governor Perry, which I liked a lot, as a starting point. So I like endorsements from Texas. And Congressman Paul's right. There's an area, I think, what he has said about the Federal Reserve and what he has said about the importance of monetary policy, the proposal I've issued for a gold commission, which harkens back to something that he and Jesse Helms helped develop and which he served on in 1981, and the fact that we have people of the caliber of Lou Lehrman and Jim Grant who've agreed they would chair such a commission. I think there are areas we can work on. There are places we disagree very deeply. Iran is a good example. But there are places, you build a coalition by trying to find ways you can work together, and frankly, we could work together a lot more than either one of us could work with Barack Obama.
Governor Romney, a question you know is coming because of what you've set in motion for tomorrow when you release 1 year's tax returns and your estimates for 2011. We know it's not a matter of producing them. You said during the McCain vetting process you turned over 23 years, which you had at the ready because, to quote you, you're something of a pack rat. So prior to tomorrow, can you tell us tonight what's in there that's going to get people talking? What's in there that's going to be controversial? What's in there that you may find yourself defending?
No surprises, Brian. The most extensive disclosure that I made was the financial disclosure requirements under the law. We each had to do that, and I laid out what my assets are and where they are, and people have been looking at that. It's very similar to what it was 4 years ago, and so my income tax will show that that's where the profits and rewards came. The real question is not so much my taxes, but the taxes of the American people. The real question people are going to ask is, who's going to help the American people at a time when folks are having real tough times? And that's why I put forward a plan to eliminate the tax on savings for middle-income Americans. Anyone making under $200,000 a year, I would eliminate the tax on interest, dividends, and capital gains. People need help to be able to save their money. I'll also bring the corporate tax rate down to 25% as quickly as possible, and then begin a process of reshaping the entire tax code. It's far too complex, it's far too intrusive, it's far too great. I'd like to lower the rates, broaden the base, akin to what we saw in the Bowles-Simpson plan, which, by the way, the President commissioned and then simply brushed aside. We need to go back to that, get our rates down, and get a pro-growth tax policy in this country.
So across this country tomorrow, when people learn the details of the tax return you release, and of course you'll be under pressure to release more years after that, nothing will stick out, nothing will emerge that'll be talked about by this time tomorrow night.
Oh, I'm sure people will talk about it. I mean, you'll see my income, how much taxes I paid, how much I paid to charity. You'll see how complicated taxes can be. But I pay all the taxes that are legally required and not a dollar more. I don't think you want someone as the candidate for president who pays more taxes than he owes. So I'll point out that that's the case. And will there be discussion? Sure. Will it be an article? Yeah. But is it entirely legal and fair? Absolutely. I'm proud of the fact that I pay a lot of taxes. And the fact is there are a lot of people in this country that pay a lot of taxes. I'd like to see our tax rate come down and focus on growing the country, getting people back to work. That's our problem in this country right now. We got a lot of people out of work. Let's let them start paying taxes because they got jobs again.
Speaker Gingrich, what will satisfy you?
Look, first of all, I said the other day when he indicated he was going to release it, that was the right thing to do. It's actually a tradition his father started in 1967. I think it's the right thing to do. The biggest thing I think will be, and I think you indicated the other day that you paid something like a 15% marginal rate. My position is not to attack him for paying a 15% marginal rate. I have in my tax proposal an alternative flat tax on the Hong Kong model where you get to choose which you want, and our rate's 15%. So I'm prepared to describe my 15% flat tax as the Mitt Romney flat tax. I'd like to bring everybody else down to Mitt's rate, not try to bring him up to some other rate.
And
May I ask
yes,
just a question, Mr. Speaker? Is the tax on capital gains also 15%, or is it zero?
Zero.
Well, under that plan, I'd have paid no taxes in the last 2 years.
Well, if you created enough jobs doing that, it was Alan Greenspan who first said, the best rate if you want to create jobs for capital gains is zero. My number one goal is to create a maximum number of jobs to put the American people back to work. It's a straightforward argument.
And, Governor, how about your father's model of 12 years' worth of returns?
You know, I agree with my dad on a lot of things, but we also disagree. And going out with 12 years of returns is not something I'm going to do. I'm putting out 2 years, which is more than anyone else on the stage. I think it'll satisfy the interest of the American people, see that I pay my taxes, where I give my charitable contributions to, and I think that's the right number.
More broadly, Governor, just an aside, have you been surprised at the degree to which your wealth has become an issue? You spoke rather forcefully in South Carolina over the weekend on Saturday night about this, about the degree to which you've had to defend, as you put it, your success in business.
Yeah, I knew that was going to come from the Obama team. I understood that. We see that on the left. I was surprised to see people in the Republican Party pick up the weapons of the left and start using them to attack free enterprise. I think those weapons will be used against us. I think it's very unfortunate. I will not apologize for having been successful. I did not inherit what my wife and I have, nor did she. What we have, what I was able to build, I built the old-fashioned way, by earning it, by working hard. And I was proud of the fact that we helped create businesses that grew, that employed people. And these are not just high-end financial jobs. We helped start Staples, for instance. It employs 90,000 people. These are middle-income people. They're entry-level jobs, too. I'm proud of the fact that we help people around the country. Bright Horizons Children's Centers, the Sports Authority, Steel Dynamics, a new steel company. These employ people, middle-income people. And the nature of America is individuals pursuing their dreams don't make everyone else poorer. They help make us all better off. And so I'm not going to apologize for success or apologize for free enterprise. I believe free enterprise is one of the things that we have to reinvigorate in this country if we want to get people working again.
Senator Santorum, Governor Romney has said, and he said it again tonight, he expected these attacks from the other side. He's been taking fire, as he would, from the Democrats, from the group on this stage. That means you. That includes you.
I didn't mean to include...
No, I have not. I have not fired at Governor Romney on his work at Bain Capital. In fact, I've been maybe unique in that regard that I haven't. I believe in capitalism. I believe in free markets. I believe Governor Romney can go out and earn whatever he can, and hopefully he creates jobs by earning that money and investing in companies. My only question with Governor Romney is that, to be a great defender of capitalism and talk about the importance of capitalism, free markets, and in the case of Bain, constructive capitalism and destructive capitalism. My question to Governor Romney and to Speaker Gingrich, if you believe in capitalism that much, then why did you support the bailout of Wall Street, where you had an opportunity to allow destructive capitalism to work, to allow a failure of a system that needed to fail because people did things that in capitalism you pay a price. And we should have allowed those financial institutions to go through the bankruptcy process, and we would have had resulted not what we're seeing here in Florida with this lengthy recession/depression of a housing market. You would have seen the effects of what Governor Romney advocated for and advocates today at Bain Capital, which is allowing companies that do not do their job, cannot be competitive, make mistakes, to fail and pay the price instead of having government come in and prop them up.
And Speaker Gingrich, just tonight, 2 hours ago, in fact, you released your 06 contract with Freddie Mac. We alluded to this earlier. Your company was paid $25,000 a month, $300,000 for the year, but it didn't provide a further explanation of services for Freddie Mac. Why 1 year's worth? Governor Romney today used the expression work product. He wants to see your work product, and the word lobbying's been thrown around, and you strongly disagree with that.
Well, first of all, if you read the contract, and we can go back and check to get the other years, it's not that. We had to work through the process of getting an approval because there was a confidentiality agreement. But if you read the contract, which we've posted, and the Center for Health Transformation had to get permission to post, it has very clearly, I was supposed to do consulting work. Now, the governor did consulting work for years. I've never suggested his consulting work was lobbying. So let me start right there. There's no place in the contract that provides for lobbying. I've never done any lobbying. Congressman J.C. Watts, who for 7 years was the head of the Freddie Mac Watch Committee, said flatly he has never been approached by me. The fact is that Congressman Rick Lazio, who was chairman of the Housing Subcommittee, said he has never been approached by me. And the only report in the newspaper was in the New York Times in July of 2008, which said, I told the House Republicans they should vote no, not give Freddie Mac any money because it needed to be reformed.
So you never peddled influence as he described tonight? You never peddled influence as Governor Romney accused you of tonight?
You know, there's a point in this process where it gets unnecessarily personal and nasty, and that's sad. The fact is, I've had a very long career of trying to represent the people of Georgia, and as Speaker, the people of the United States. I think it's pretty clear to say that I have never, ever gone and done any lobbying. In fact, we brought in an expert on lobbying law and trained all of our staff, and that expert is prepared to testify that he was brought in to say, here is how the bright line between what you can do as a citizen and what you do as a lobbyist. And we consistently, for 12 years, running 4 small businesses, stayed away from lobbying precisely because I thought this kind of defamatory and factually false charge would be made.
Well, Mr. Speaker, you were on this stage at a prior debate. You said you were paid $300,000 by Freddie Mac as an historian. They don't pay people $25,000 a month for 6 years as historians. That adds up to about $1.6 million. They weren't hiring you as an historian, and this contract proves that you were not an historian. You were a consultant. It doesn't say that you provided historical experience. It said that you were as a consultant, and you were hired by the chief lobbyist of Freddie Mac, not the CEO, not the head of public affairs, by the chief lobbyist of Freddie Mac. You also spoke publicly in favor of these GSEs, these government-sponsored entities, at a very time when Freddie Mac was getting America in a position where we'd have a massive housing collapse. You could have spoken out aggressively. You could have spoken out a way to say, these guys are wrong, this needs to end. But instead, you were being paid by them. You were making over $1 million. At the same time, people in Florida were being hurt by millions of dollars.
This is a good example, though. As a businessman, you know that the gross revenue of Bain wasn't your personal income. We had a company. The company had 3 offices. The company was being paid. My share annually was about $35,000 a year. And the fact is, I offered strategic advice, largely based on my knowledge of history, including the history of Washington. Government-sponsored enterprises include, for example, telephone cooperatives, rural electric cooperatives, federal credit unions. There are many different kinds of government-sponsored enterprises, and many of them have done very good things. And in the early years, before some people, particularly Jim Johnson and other Democrats, began to change the model, you could make a pretty good argument that in the early years, those housing institutions were responsible for a lot of people getting a lot of good housing.
There's no question about that, but we're talking about one. We're talking about Freddie Mac.
Right.
And that one did a lot of bad for a lot of people. And you were working there, making over $1 million for your entities controlled and owned by you. Owned by you. I don't know whether 100% owned by you, but I presume. Owned by you, over $1.6 million. And you said it was $300,000. It was $1.6 million. So That's a difference.
Matt, what's the gross revenue of Bain in the years you were associated with it? What's the gross revenue?
Very substantial, but I think it's irrelevant compared to the fact that you were working for Freddie Mac.
Wait a second.
You were working
very
for
substantial.
Freddie.
Did Bain ever do any work with any company which did any work with the government, like Medicare?
We didn't do
Medicaid?
any work with the government. I didn't have an office in K Street. I wasn't a lobbyist. I've never worked in Washington.
So
you were working there. We have congressmen who also say that you came and lobbied them in favor.
I didn't lobby them.
You have congressmen who say that you came and lobbied them with regards to Medicare Part D. At the same time, your senator was taking in contributions.
You just jumped a long way over here, friend.
Well, another area of influence peddling.
No, let me be very clear, because I understand your technique, which you used on McCain, you used on Huckabee, you used consistently. Okay, it's unfortunate, and it's not going to work very well because the American people see through it.